like Catherine just gets by.
Yeah, not on the radar because she's not a behavior issue.
Exactly. And the good thing about having a small class of 11 is they aren't going to know behavior problems. How can they?
Which is great.
Which is wonderful.
Yeah.
So in terms of that, it's great.
I have a framework. You've maybe
Yeah.
even seen it, but it's a framework for getting all of those active reading strategies into every single lesson. It's called the START framework.
Okay.
It's students and teachers actively reading.
Okay.
And the idea is, it's basically guided reading,
Yeah.
but it's so explicit, and the kids start out with that using Post-it notes.
Yeah. Yes.
And there are the 2 boxes for pre-reading, and
Yeah.
you just put it right in there. What am I, what do
Yeah.
I think it's about? Just, predicting, and then during reading, they fill out a few more Post-its,
Yeah.
and then after reading,
They put it in. Ooh,
the
yeah,
rest
send it over.
I'll send it over.
Yeah.
It's in an article, and
Yes.
it's a little bit, it's maybe the next step from the pictures, it's
Yeah.
doing the same
Yeah.
thing except actually writing.
Yes.
And then, so you model it,
Yes.
and then like you do any
Right.
other guided
With the
lesson.
journal. I mean, I basically
them.
feel like the START, anything visual organization,
Mhm.
if it's a visual, if it actually looks like a graphic organizer, they're all over it.
Because it's manageable. It's chunked enough, it's do this, then do this, instead of a blank piece of paper.
Exactly.
Right.
Like, we're big at the high school on dialectical journals and annotating, which is great for a typical student to
Mhm.
annotate, to read something into, this is an interesting quote, let me put a post-it
Mhm.
here. Those would be strategies that would be age appropriate. And yet I'm dealing with students who, for some reason, for whatever reasons, have skipped a huge, and so when you ask them to annotate something, they literally have nothing to say. If you say, go home tonight and read these, we don't do a lot of interdisciplinary work at the high school yet, but I hear about it from the history teachers. They'll say to the kids, go home and read pages 8 to 10 and take notes. Whereas in the elementary school, they'd probably give questions, just take some notes on pages 8 to 10 and we'll talk about it in this class. Kids have no idea what to take for notes. They take the most obscure reference, or they take every single word.
Just completely random, they don't have any skill.
No, so I mean, that's the kind of,
Mhm.
like this, what you're mentioning, Mike, is a good framework, because some of these kids, for some reason, they can't pull out main ideas innately. They can if the topic says, the divine child, and they know that it's in bold and it's at the top of a paragraph, and so I know it must be important. They've been schooled well in knowing that they should look for the bold headings, and that they should, when they see a bold heading, know that that's an important topic, and that might be what the whole paragraph is about. But if it's not that overt, and if it doesn't have, some of the Prentice Hall texts that we're getting now, they're actually annotated for the kids, so the kids can actually see. It would be like a model story.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and so the kids can see in the margin, it'll have like a bubble, it'll have like a little bubble. Do you remember a time when you were afraid because you heard a noise and didn't know what it was? And so it's actually kind of innate, it's modeling for the kids, if you will. And that's what my kids need. They need just what you're saying. So yeah, send it along.
Yeah, I will. And it's funny because I was going to say, what about annotating? Because that's supposed to be either they cut the,
Yes.
just even this paragraph, but they're not even there yet. That'd be the next step.
Yeah, that is the next step. And and I'm not sure, I hear a lot of the teachers above me talking about the struggles that kids have top to bottom with reading, top to bottom, not kids with learning disabilities and not kids with attentional disabilities. I'm talking just struggling with reading.
With close reading.
Yes.
We were just talking about that today. We had an MCAS data meeting for the 5th grade, and that was all those open responses, and even the math questions, where it was the writing portion of it.
Yes.
They could do the math functions.
Yeah.
They were missing certain keywords, and it was interesting because we kept saying they don't know how to close read.
Exactly.
It's a hard one to teach,
Yeah.
but if you start young enough and it's ingrained, but everybody has to be
On the same page. And I don't know if it's the number of different competing screens and different competing, I don't know what it exactly is, because when we went to school, we certainly weren't taught as explicitly as my children probably are. I think my children are being taught very well, explicitly how to read, how to be, critical thinkers, how to assimilate text.
and why you're doing it.
Yeah, I think the teachers are doing a yeoman's job to try to do that, but for some reason, they get a bad rap, because we get kids in the high school level that can't read, and I'm wondering why, or they So there's something up, and I'm not really sure what it is, and it's not across the board, but there are big gaps of kids who, don't read,
Well,
and it's not just, you know what I'm saying, you're hearing about in fifth grade, so.
right. And I hear that it's been, like, it's class after class almost, and more problems.
But why?
That's the only thing I can attribute it to.
What
For
is?
me, how can it not make sense that if you're staring at a screen all the time,
You
or-
become passive, you mean?
yeah, and your brain might be working in a different way,
Right.
but it's not, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Or if it affects their attention span, so that when they're reading, they're not actively reading, you know, they're just
Yeah.
going over the words, I don't know.
yeah, and I also don't know in the, you'd know better than I would, in the heterogeneously grouped classroom. Do those reluctant readers, or the ones that could possibly be at risk, do they feel so intimidated by the blue group, or whatever the highest group is, that they, in a weird way, try to, I don't know, shelter themselves, or, I don't know,
Well, we're really careful not to group,
okay,
and I think that, I mean, I don't know if it's just where I am, but I mean, that's the
Yeah.
general idea, is we
Yeah.
don't group because we don't want those kids to
to know
have
that,
that.
yes. So how do you deal with like a,
We group them.
oh, okay, I'm just wondering.
You know, so-and-so and so-and-so, come over and work with the teacher today. And then, you know, you two work over here and you three work over there. I mean,
Yeah.
it's happening.
Do they
There's
get
no
it?
way-
Do they know what's happening? Like we used to?
Yes,
They do.
I think they do.
Okay.
And they also, there's so many pull-out services now. The kids are out.
Pulling up.
Title I, they take them out.
Really?
Yeah. So we don't have the, you know, bluebirds and the
Yeah, right, the pigeons.
pigeons or the crows
Yeah.
anymore.
Right.
But it's all the same. It's all the same. You know, really. It's doing
Yeah.
it in a different way. And the kids do know. Certainly at third grade, some of them are still like, oh, I'm going with, you know, something.
They don't mind.
They don't mind so much, but they start to. You
But
can
they
see
start to,
some of
okay.
them do, some of them don't. But you know, by the end, they know. And by fourth grade,
It's,
they don't want to be.
They don't.
Because they know.
and do you
that's-
still pull out in fourth?
Mhm.
You do? Okay,
Yeah. For some of the kids, yeah.
okay. And the people that get pulled out, they just have they're struggling with this.
Yes. Yeah.
They're not necessarily all IEPs.
They are not on IEPs. Sometimes they'll take somebody that is, but that's what that Title I is for kids that are not on IEPs. Now, the kids that are on IEPs get different services. Some get the special ed that will pull them out.
Okay.
Some have special ed in the room. It all depends on the class
I
makeup.
would
and-
love to do a longitudinal study to see if the kids, now obviously it's difficult in a district with so many elementary schools, but how many of the kids I have now would have been identified as such then? Do you see what I mean?
Mhm.
And how many of those kids that are getting interventions now I will not see in that many years
Mm.
later? Just,
They would be very interesting.
yes.
And I am intrigued because I'm taking one of these groups
Yeah,
every day. No, not every day, excuse me. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
okay.
For a half an hour, we go down and down to the reading room
Yeah,
and have a half an hour. And this is phonics.
Yeah.
This is really, you know,
Basic.
basic stuff.
okay.
Some of the kids don't need it quite, you know,
Yeah.
even like you're saying, even within a small group,
Yeah.
there's a big difference, you know, and I feel bad
Yes.
for Jay who knows the vowels and, you know.
Oh.
There was a third grader yesterday who didn't know the vowels. And I'm like, Christian, I'm singing the song for you, A, E.
You're like, I'm feeling it here.
I'm giving you a tune. But
Oh, God.
you know, we collect them, we get their lunches and all, because we go straight to lunch.
Oh.
So we start about 7 or 8 minutes before we have to be to the other end of the
Yeah.
school. We
Yeah.
get down there, then it's like, quick, okay, get the folders out, get everything. Then we start, I mean, it's 20 minutes
Of
of
getting
instruction,
ready.
really.
Yeah, right.
And then, because I only have half an hour, so we've spent, you know, 40, 45 minutes.
Right.
Yet they've only gotten 25 minutes maybe, or 30 minutes of instruction. And then they're also missing what's in class.
That's
You
the
know.
worst.
Yep, they're
And do you
missing what's
think
in
that
class.
these kids that you're working with now, knowing them
Mhm.
as briefly as you do you think that these kids have the potential to get it all together?
I think some of them do.
Okay. Okay.
I think there's so many, there's such a, the dynamic is overwhelming. I mean, all the other, if it's
Yes.
attention that's coming into play and,
Is it learning disability?
um,
Is it IQ?
yeah, and I might not be I wouldn't maybe say this to everybody, but some kids are just, they are who they are.
Oh.
We can help them get further along.
To be the best they can be, but we have a teacher here who deals with students, you must know Sue Brown. Do you know Sue?
No, I know the
She
name.
wasn't here when you were, okay. I feel like she's been here 35 years, but she's an angel. And she deals with people whose IQs are mental retardation, 72 or something, she deals with kids who don't take MCAS card, but they do portfolio assessments. And those kids, because of their IQ level, are never going to be able to possibly assimilate 3 different informational texts and pull out a paragraph with some, they will need to know how to read maybe like a T-stop, if you will, and know how to understand it from here to there, and, make a plan to go shopping and where I'm gonna go. But, Sue will joke, I should say, I'm working on life skills. I'm getting these kids jobs, bagging and start truck, and I'm standing by them as they bag. So I wonder if you're dealing with kids as
That
Sue,
would be-
I don't know. I mean, are those kids?
I don't think so,
Okay,
but there's a lot in between.
Right,
There's a
right.
lot of space in between.
right, okay. We basically are servicing a lot of different kids. You have the autism spectrum disorder kids in there, you don't have stuff that, okay. And you have to work with, I don't know, I mean,
Those kids can read and they have comprehension and they have,
Yes.
I mean, they have a whole, it's that
Yes.
social piece that's, for some of them, are
Yeah.
so much bigger. For me, the kids that worry me are the kids that are, they just don't get it, it seems like. Like when you're reading a whole list of, we're doing short, mop, caught,
Yeah.
and then they get to one and they're like, pat, pit, because they haven't seen it before, it's like, but it's like, even
Yes.
if you didn't know the word,
Yes.
don't you recognize a pattern here?
You got the op at the end of every word,
Those
right?
are the things, those are the kids that you think, what's going on in there, and they're already at this age, I mean, they're already so far
Well,
behind.
I don't know if this is supposed to be on the tape, but this year I had a student who, on my last one, not the class you're looking at, but it's a mess in every category. Except the fact that he's a pleaser. He likes me and wants to please me.